Welcome, everybody, to the Tuesday edition of Minions of the Zoo. I'm Skeptock. I'll be your keeper tonight. With me, I have Minion Prospero.
Hello.
The Harry Channel.
Good evening.
And the useful Jason.
How goes it?
I'm so happy to have you guys show up because everybody else said no. Everybody else had something else to do tonight. So it's going to be an intimate little chat, just the four of us this evening. And
Cool.
That's just fine. Prosper, how was your day? What you been doing?
My day was pretty entertaining. We went over to the new hood and they did a presentation on what the clubhouse and fitness center are going to be like.
Yes.
Which included the fabric samples and flooring samples and things like that. The presentation from the interior designer who'd been working on this for a good while, and very, very nice plan. In keeping with the agri-hood nature of the development. And the same people that built the barn on the property are building this. It's a company called Echo Barns out of Vermont. And they do some just amazing work. They've done wineries in Europe. You know, they're
what kind of barn are they building? Is it a functioning barn with livestock and stuff?
No, because this isn't a livestock farm. This is a sustainable vegetable farm kind of, and orchard and that kind of thing. The barn they built was to serve both as their sales center and a gathering place. So it has a demonstration kitchen and barn table seating and that kind of thing. But the design of it is the open rafter, windowed cupola in the roof.
That little apartment up there?
No. It's all open.
Okay.
Yeah, and Prospero went away again. She's been doing this occasionally. She will be talking, and then you'll hear like a robot sound, and she'll vanish.
She's fighting internet gods.
Yeah, I think this is Comcast because I'm not having any trouble hearing, which I usually have when I'm having the other weird sounds. I also ran, I cleaned everything out, turned everything off.
Yeah. We just hear the robot sound and then your voice just vanishes.
Oh, good.
Mid-word sometimes. So I don't know what to tell you.
Well, there isn't anything I can do about it.
We'll just sit back and enjoy the ride tonight. You know,
we'll just walk it off.
Whatever the internet gods give us, we'll be happy with.
So anyway, I had an interesting day. How was your day?
It's every day is a new day of. I'm starting to get in decent shape for being as old and decrepit as I am. Being outside the work I do in the yard and garden and the like, and plus, walking 4 miles a day. Between that's a pretty good level of activity for a geezer like me. And it's, so I'm kind of in that mellow, post-workout, after your shower, you feel all relaxed, your body feels good. You just want to kind of kick back and mellow out with your friends. Yeah, it's just a perfect night for a stream. So thanks for asking. I had a good day today. Jason, what you been up to?
Well, not too much. Went to the doctor's today. Did some work in my greenhouse. I already got some sprouts growing. So
what are you growing?
Well, onions, green beans, and carrots.
All right, onions, pretty easy to grow most of the time. Green beans also can be easy. You can lose them really fast. And the other one was carrots?
Yep.
Goddamn near impossible to grow indoors. I just have, I took a picture of my carrot we pulled out one of the carrots. This poor carrot, it was like the elephant man of carrots. It was just deformed. Anyway, it was a wreck. I ate it out of mercy. It tasted good, tasted like a carrot, but it was all deformed and strange. Yeah, and we just had we conquered the potato demons this year, but the corn demons got us. So I feel your pain, or sympathize with your effort anyway. Yeah. And there will be good times and bad times, but man, carrots are hard for me.
Yeah. Well, I tried growing without the greenhouse before, and the sun just cooked plants. So yeah, you kind of need the protection of the greenhouse to grow stuff where I live.
Yeah, I can imagine.
One thing you can do for carrots, though, which is really nice, is plant them under beans.
Oh.
You can do a lot of companion planting for space. So, like, you know how...
Plant them offset, right?
Yeah. If you have your, like, 2 rows of beans.
Right.
Pretty well separated on poles or perhaps triangularly leaning toward each other.
Yeah.
You can plant your carrots underneath that.
Yeah.
Okay.
Because they'll get light through and it will be a bit shaded and more protected because they're
delicate. They're much more delicate.
And they're an in-ground plant.
Yeah.
And they will grow in cold weather also. And cold weather tends to intensify the sugars in carrots and make them sweeter. So winter carrots are particularly sweet.
I didn't know that. So.
And so when it is cooler, you can try running different crops at different times of year.
Yeah.
You can do the same with radishes. Run them under something. Because I did radishes under cucumbers. The cucumbers were starting and they were kind of working their way up the trellis.
Yeah.
And the radishes were just popping up underneath because as long as they're getting light and the soil is warm enough for them. Now radishes they're nowhere near as delicate as carrots.
Oh no,
carrots
they're
are
like,
finicky little fucks.
They're like Bolshevik carrots.
Yeah.
The hardy Russian peasant stock.
Yeah.
Can't hardly kill them. So anyway, okay. Well, sounds interesting. Harry, how was your day?
Oh, a little on the frustrating side. I'm sitting here in California with perfect weather, and I haven't even been outside today. It seems like
that's
what's the point? What's the point in living in such a great place if you can't go outside?
Right. Yep, been there.
My morning started with this guy who has filed a user for one of my customers that I support, who filed a ticket for the 3rd time with a bunch of caps in it, saying clone. Need root password to all testbed systems. Now, this guy has filed this ticket 3 times now, and I've just sort of fixed the problems that he seems to think he needs root for, but he just keeps filing it, and I'm just like, oh God, he's just going to force me to tell him no, isn't he? Okay.
Yeah, that's exactly what's going on there.
How do I say, even if you had the root password, you wouldn't be able to fix these problems politely without sounding like you're telling the guy he's an idiot? Because he's not an idiot, obviously, but it's just one of those things where, how do I break it to you that there are so many interdependent systems that unless you basically are going to take on the role of being an IT person, there's no way you could fix any given problem? Because having super user privileges on just the one system that you want to fix that's broken
not
is
helpful.
Meaningless. Yeah,
not
you
helpful.
don't have file server access. You don't have access to Active Directory. You don't have access to NIS. You don't have access to any of the things that are actually broken. So all you could do is just sort of sit there with your little root login with your root prompt shaking your fist, at the weather.
You could
There's
actually
nothing
monitor.
You could do.
You could write some monitoring software. You can read a lot with SuperUser, usually.
Yeah, no, he absolutely could, but I don't know if he'd know what to look for. I mean, for all I know, in his previous life, he was the world's greatest system admin. But but then he sent me the following sentence, and I don't remember if I actually sent it to you in Discord. Let me bring this up. This is a beautiful sentence.
Sent me some code the other day, which I appreciate.
Oh yeah, I thought you might enjoy that.
Yeah, I did.
So this guy sent me this thing. He basically had a ping that returned a couple packets, and then he said, "Looks like an active TCP termination point. Hopefully there is a POSIX service behind it." Now this is like a facepalm to somebody like me because
What? I know. I couldn't believe what you just said.
because it's not a termination point of anything. It's not a TCP tunnel. It's ICMP, which is a different protocol,
Yeah.
both under IP. And POSIX talks about how APIs and
ICMP
interfaces
is
are defined for. And
ICMP
POSIX is a completely different universe. POSIX
Yeah,
is a
right.
completely different universe. It's like it's so tempting for me just to say, "Thank you for this lovely dish of word salad that you presented me with." But I didn't feel like being such an asshole because the guy's trying to be good and he's trying to be helpful and he obviously has a clue. But it's like if you're trying to show me how smart you are and shame me into giving you root, this is not going to do it.
Yeah.
That's how my day went.
I haven't uttered the term ICMP. What's that interconnect networking ICMP management protocol? That's what that is. It's
There's a bunch of
connection
little
management.
protocols that there's a whole bunch of protocols that fall under IP. Most people just know.
Oh
about
yeah,
TCP.
yeah, exactly. Yeah, and they don't know about error checking and non-error checking. The difference between TCP and UDP and stuff. There's a lot of
Well,
stuff.
the thing I'm trying to do is essentially I'm trying to do the amount of work of 4 full-time people as one person. And it's difficult sometimes because there's a bunch of future stuff that I'm trying to set up for private clouds and some pretty high-level storage sort of stuff to support private clouds and hybrid clouds and multi-site and all sorts of other stuff. And I really should be spending more time on future stuff, but there's not enough of me to go around just to keep up with all the current stuff. So I'm being very reactive instead of proactive, and unfortunately, there's nothing I can do about it. So I was talking to some folks today saying, "Hey, I don't suppose we have any spare summer interns floating around that I can borrow?" Because I've got some really great projects for them to do.
That reactivity tail can wag pretty hard. You can. It just seems like you never get a handle on it if you're constantly reacting to new situations and don't have goals and plans that you're making progress toward.
Yeah, it is a little frustrating because at some point I have to retire.
Yes.
And I'd like to get some of these things done before I can't work any longer.
I understand.
Yeah, understand.
Know exactly what you mean.
And here in California, at least my part of California, carrots grow like weeds. It's not even a problem.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, the next one is
California is blessed with great soil all over, and particularly where you are, Harry.
Well, I was thinking about actually
Bread
Jason's
basket
part of the
there.
world earlier today. I was listening to, is it Jose Feliciano's version of California Dreamin'?
Mm-hmm.
And if you've ever listened to the lyrics of that song, it's like, Jason, he's talking about where you live.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah. Going for a walk on a like a sunny winter's day kind of thing. It's like a lot of people would probably consider where you live to be paradise.
Well, it's not bad. It's just the soil's clay out here. You can't really grow much.
Well, you can fix that. You can do soil amendments to fix whatever the issue is. But
you'd be safe and warm back in LA.
You'll be safe and warm back in LA. Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah, not
I'm not sure I've ever heard a bad version of that song.
No. That's an amazing song. Really a phenomenal piece of songwriting.
Yeah. Were you going to say Prospero? I think I stepped on you.
No, I was just saying not anymore. Safe and warm in LA.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, no kidding. Live under the underpass with the rest of half the population.
Yeah, I drove through LA and there's tents over overpasses and everywhere. So.
Prospero, you had said something that you had wanted to talk about tonight. What was it? What was it you wanted to bring up?
Oh, the current flap in the moral scold right about porn stars can't be conservatives.
Okay, and who are the principals in this battle?
Well, Matt Walsh was one of the first to
Of
fire
the Daily Wire.
Yeah, nobody.
Third banana at the Daily Wire.
Yeah,
He's
and
Steve Shives of the right. Yes, he's
yeah,
Steve,
yeah.
God, is
all the
that
way down to the moist lips? You know
Oh,
the
yeah.
and you just
so
know
wrong.
He's whacking it to anime at home and fussing about Brandy Love. It's just that's the thing about these. Rome is in flames, and you're fiddling with your pearls and calling for your smelling salts because there is a self-proclaimed conservative porn star.
Yeah.
And
It's just a gimmick for her. I mean, you let's all understand what's going on here. Hey, there's no conservative porn stars. I'll be one. That it may not even be her idea.
It might not be. She could be legit. I don't care. This is so inconsequential. And they've made a stink about it. And
that they can only hurt them. That's the amazing
it's a
thing.
cell phone.
Yeah, it's a cell phone. Yeah. I mean, it's like a penalty shot on their own goal.
Yeah, absolutely. Good job kicking the ball backwards there. It's unnecessary, and it comes off. You know who they remind me of? The Vice and Virtue Committee in Saudi Arabia.
Saudi Arabia.
I mean, the scoldy tone, and bless Lauren Chen's heart. She's young. She is. I have to remind myself how painfully young that girl is.
Yeah, she's 27. She's seen the world. She's been around.
Bullshit. She's naive as fuck. And it shows. It shows.
She's idealistic, is what she is. She really.
Which is retarded for a conservative.
Well, it's kind of sweet in a way, but yeah,
it is. But she's naive. I mean, she's Pollyanna, and it's like, bless you, but stop. Really, shut your mouth, Lauren. Nobody needs you telling everybody how to live their lives. You're not going to encourage.
I agree with you that she's overextended on this. Very definitely.
And she does this to herself. She will occasionally just decide that she's going to pick a dumbass molehill to die on. Meanwhile, she's standing in the shade of a mountain like CRT.
Yeah, but she tries to act with a certain amount of consistency, and she is a reliable classic conservative.
Yes,
and this kind of thing is going to bother her. And
she
doesn't want to be associated with it.
She's a moralizer. She is very much a moralizer, and that is and can be an element of conservatives, but it is not. The large swath of conservatives I know we're not moral scolds.
No. Most of them are too smart to be moral scolds, really. I mean, I'm not saying Lauren isn't smart. She's a very, very smart lady, but yeah, she's
unsophisticated.
She will learn more as she goes through life and inevitably suffers a few bumps and bruises.
I just wish
things that make us tolerant and all that.
I just wish she'd stop, because all I'm thinking is, Lauren, basically you're making a fool out of yourself. All the libertarians are laughing at you, the large L and the small L. The libertarian
small L's are mad at her. Actually,
I'm
pissed off.
I'm mad at her too, because I think this is a foolish thing to be doing. And it makes, it is drawing even
the wrong kind of attention.
It's drawing even tighter this relationship between conservatism and Christianity. And now, granted, even though Hebrew moral thought had a lot to do with forming moral thought in the Western world. This is still primarily the evangelical Christian or the devoted Catholic point of view. And these are the people that you can't legalize drugs because drugs are bad for you. You can't do this because this is bad for you. And you end up sounding like Bloomberg with you can't have the 32-ounce Coca-Cola because sugar is bad for you. To me, there's no difference. You're telling me what I can and can't do and not allowing me to make moral decisions for myself.
It's the greater good argument, you know?
Yeah. And we're not children. Quit treating us like that. And also quit giving fuel to people who think you want a theocracy, because you do sound like the Saudi Committee for Vice and Virtue, that you are going to be out there with sticks whacking the porn stars going, bad, bad, bad. You're a bad example for the children. I tell you what, mind your own children at home.
Yeah.
Teach them to value themselves. Tend to your own fucking garden and quit tending to mine.
Yeah, the take that I had on it was that this is just really unimportant.
Yes.
What is it about this that has got her attention so hard? I really don't understand. And I know her a little bit, not terribly well, but a little bit, and been around her enough to.
I think she's just following the crowd.
Is she following the crowd, or is she being
her.
led by her own audience? That's because those are not necessarily the same thing. And I think
it could
she's
be the
caught
second.
up in it herself. Yeah. And I think but largely she's following her own audience. I mean, she's sort of in the annex of the Matt Walsh part of that corner of YouTube. Mm-hmm. And she may think that maybe she doesn't care about it as much as she's pretending to. I think in the big scheme of things, there are plenty of other things to talk about.
She cares about this a lot, actually, Harry. I guarantee you.
I don't know. I'm just saying my mind reading skills are not great.
No.
So you know her better than I do. I mean, you've actually met her, so you know better than I do. But the main thing, morality aside, is about her age is that she hasn't lived through many of these cycles of movement, growing, coming together, the tent gets big, and then groups within the tent start trying to decide who they can kick out.
Yep. In 10 years, she would never do this. She would never.
Yeah, she has never been through one of these sort of purges, because you get these cycles of rise and decline that happen. You know, this is sort of on the periphery of the point I tried to make a while ago about how I think some things just cycle this way. They become big, they succeed, and then they start to fail. They collapse in under their own weight. When you get a large enough group of people, whether they're conservatives or liberals or what have you, at a certain point, they just start kicking people out of the tent. And I've seen it happen a whole bunch of times in my lifetime. She's never seen it. She's too young to know the folly of her ways right now. And I'm sure she means well. But as you said, 10 years from now, she would probably not make the same mistake.
I think she would cringe, don't you think, Prospero?
I'd hope so. I would hope so. She's also too young to be aware of the difference between the Rockefeller wing and the Goldwater wing of conservatism.
Yeah.
Big government conservatives versus what we now call small little libertarians, more or less. I mean, Goldwater, I'd class him as a libertarian now.
I classify myself as a Goldwater Republican. I even have the button and everything.
Yeah.
Yeah,
AUH2O?
Yep.
Yeah, I love
Or as
those.
I call myself, disenfranchised.
Yes, that's well, absolutely, and I feel the same way, because every time I think the Republicans might have a good idea, they turn around and fuck it. And
the moral fagging starts up, and they end up just you just want to look at them and go, stop hitting yourself. Please, stop hitting yourself.
These are entirely unforced errors. You keep hitting the ball into the net because you have blinders on. And they think more people want them to mind the manners and morality of their children than actually do. And this assumption that people have to receive their moral instruction from politicians is as annoying to me as receiving your moral instruction from your fast food.
Yes.
It's like
Superman makes a better moral character, sort of a blueprint for moral behavior than any of these real life politicians. They will just let you down.
Yes.
And this is another thing you learn over time. I'm still annoyed at Petraeus, General Petraeus, because I was sitting here thinking, there's a guy who's got his shit together. Get up in the morning, couple-mile run, or like 3-mile run, 101 arm push-ups, all the stuff that he did. And then there he was, knocking boots with his biographer. It's like, God damn it.
Yeah.
even Petraeus, it wasn't perfect.
Can't trust your heroes.
You can't, which is why you just shouldn't have them.
Yeah, exactly.
Or you have to just learn to start separating people into their different categories. I mean, I'm sure that Frank Lloyd Wright was not a very good person in a lot of ways. He had a lot of personal habits which I really don't approve of. That doesn't mean he wasn't one of the greatest architects of all time.
Yeah.
I can separate these things. I can read Bertrand Russell and forget about the fact that he's a commie pinko socialist.
Mm-hmm.
That's how I get through the day without being constantly annoyed at my heroes offending me. And toward that note, just to circle back, I'm not particularly annoyed at Roaming Millennial or Lauren Chan, whatever she's calling herself today, because to my mind, it's fine. She can make one mistake. If she's going to talk about this, I'm just not going to listen to her while she does it. And that's the extent of how annoyed I am with her.
Well, I'm finding it annoying because it's a cell phone, and I don't like to see people who have promise make fools of themselves in public.
Yeah, it's like, I'm embarrassed for you.
Yes, absolutely. I'm looking at her posts, and I'm thinking, Lauren, stop it. It's like a motherly impulse, a parental impulse. Please, you're making a fool out of yourself.
Back away from the keyboard.
Yeah.
As long as she's still willing to talk to somebody like me,
Karaoke
even
is
though
a
I
thing.
disagree with her, I'm fine. As long as she's willing to extend to me the same amount of tolerance I'm willing to extend to her, we'll get along just fine.
Yeah. If she, it's just she tends to think of things very much like, when you're a child and you watch Bonanza, literally they were black hats and white hats, in the cowboy movie, that kind of thing.
Right.
You get old enough to realize that gray is pretty much the color of everybody's hat.
I was going to say, except for Pernell Roberts, wasn't there a lot of tan in Bonanza? But I know what you mean.
Yeah, I know. I was thinking the same thing, and I actually
I was thinking, are you thinking the Big Valley?
Pernell had a dark hat, though.
Yeah, he did,
Yeah.
and it's he was the brooding architect of a brother living out in the middle of fucking nowhere. Great, Dad. I went to architecture school to work on a ranch.
Blow my brains out tonight.
Yeah, yeah, and it's funny too because Pernell Roberts was a Sunday school teacher. Pretty much his whole life, he taught Sunday school, which I think is
taking some time out to be on the set.
Yeah, but he was pretty much
his whole life. He was constantly teaching.
he was pretty much
sometime. Right?
Well, on Sundays he was a Sunday school teacher.
Oh, on Sundays, okay.
No, he didn't. He also dressed as the school marm on alternate Thursdays.
Thursday here.
Yeah, but right. That's it, everybody. Adam Cartwright was a crossdresser.
Yeah, I heard it here first.
Oh, and there are just so many fights that we could have about big issues that have more cultural impact than whether or not someone who worked in the porn industry spoke at a political event.
No. Move on.
Because this is, actors used to be considered people of very low character.
Mm-hmm. They're not now.
But we elected someone who chose that profession as president.
Yeah.
It doesn't.
He's pretty darn good president too.
Yeah, and but people are thought of to be a lot of things.
Mm-hmm.
Different people viewed different aspects of their life in different ways. Some people see their body as a commodity. Tell me models are not using their bodies as commodities.
No. It's a wasting resource, and I say this as somebody whose body is considered an EPA cleanup site, emergency fund site. But they look at their bodies as it's a wasting asset. Every day that a little bit of value goes out of it, and cash in. Well, there's a feeling among those people. I have been among them. That they have to make money while their body looks a certain way.
Yeah, make hay while the sun shines.
Right, exactly.
I can't understand the mindset of somebody that would willingly enter into the porn industry or prostitution or any of those things. My own personal viewpoint of myself, and it's not all that body is the temple. She says, lighting a cigarette and drinking a beer. It's just more of a no. I don't view sex as something one trades for cash. I don't view it that way. That's my personal view. Somebody else may have an entirely different viewpoint, and provided people enter into prostitution or pornography,
this
of their own free will,
you are completely in a different moral frame, I think, than where Lauren judges this from.
Absolutely,
she hears that. She hears the arrangement. She hears that this person works in pornographic films, and that's it. It's turn off a light switch as far as she's concerned. She's done with that person. She wants to know nothing more about them. She never wants to hear anything about them again because of what they do for a living. She doesn't want to have to be confronted with that stuff. That's where she comes at it.
I don't like hot and cold running shit, but I don't look at sewer workers that way. There are a lot of things I don't like. And I'm not.
No, you're kidding.
Yeah, but
Whoa, did you say that really?
Yeah, I did. There are a lot of things I don't like. And there are a lot of things I like. And I would be tore up if a daughter of mine went into prostitution or pornography willingly.
Right.
I would be very, very concerned about her view of herself. But if the decision was made as an adult and that's what they wanted to do, all I could do is say, I wish you wouldn't do this to yourself. I wish you didn't consider yourself for sale.
Yeah.
But beyond that, I don't have to be in pornography. I don't have to consume pornography. But it's going to be there, and it's been there. Lord, come on, people. You've seen the pictures from Pompeii. There are lots of dirty jokes in art throughout history. Lots of porn. Read mythology. It's just, sex has been a commodity in the human world.
Since women figured out that men wanted it.
Right. Since they realized that they could capitalize on it. It's the free market, baby.
Would you open this jar of pickles for me? Sure. Okay.
Yeah, I'll blow you if you open the jar of pickles.
That's pretty much it.
Yeah, and I have something you want. What will you pay me for it?
Earlier that day, man in store tightening jars of pickles.
Yeah. Absolutely.
So
Fag.
circling back again.
Okay, Jen Psaki.
I talk about the. I've brought up a few times this thing that I guess Aiden Paladin introduced me to, which is this notion of different traits that people have, psychological traits based on political affiliation. And the one about conservatives is they tend to be much more subject to being revulsion in terms of just being grossed out by certain things. It's just one of those character traits. So it's not particularly surprising that you would see more people at a conservative thing finding Brandy Love's behavior as revolting than you might at a progressive thing. Now, that oversimplifies it a lot.
Yes.
You brought up something. Now, you've actually brought up a ton of stuff. I almost feel like I should be taking notes just to be able to go back to all of the things that you said at the beginning of the show, Prospero. But you made a comment about morality and a lot of it being sort of the Judeo-Christian ethic influencing things. And to my mind, there were a lot of these interdependent philosophical schools that were going on at that time, right? I mean, obviously there was a lot of cross-pollination of ideas between, Jewish populations and Greeks and Egyptians and Romans, and a lot of ideas sort of traveled around. It wasn't like the Greeks didn't have a sense of ethics, and it wasn't as if they weren't aware of the Jewish traditions and vice versa. But as I understand it, if you talk about Christianity, excuse me, a lot of early Christianity was pretty freewheeling as far as a lot of the morality that modern Baptists would be particularly concerned with. And if you listen to a not religious historian like H.G. Wells talk about it, he essentially says that there were sort of fits and starts of Puritanism that would kick up in the church for marketing reasons as much as anything else. It was important that priests be different from regular people, and one way to do that was the vow of chastity. As an example of one of the things the church did, because there's these crazy assholes sitting out in the desert on pillars, just being wacky, and they're getting all the attention. It's like, here, hold my beer. Okay, I'm not having sex forever. Ha! So they just kept doing stuff like that. And then eventually
Shakers.
Yeah, and then Augustine comes along and he's like, here, hold my beer, Paul. And then
I'll leave my entire family and go live in a cave,
Yeah, I mean, and then Augustine just sort of set the bar. And if you look at the history of Europe, and you think about all of the problems that happened in the Dark Ages and the Middle Ages and all the scarcity and stuff that existed, things like property rights were certainly important. And the Christian church's influence on monogamy and marriage and sort of reinforcing different ideas about property rights, it was just a beautiful marriage made in heaven on earth.
Actually, where a lot of European property law came from was interaction between the church and landowners.
Yes.
Well, exactly. That's why we've got, over a century of... I don't think that the ancient Jewish morality had nearly as much to do with it as what sort of evolved as part of cynically saying Christian marketing, and then later, the different things that happened during the bad times in Europe. But we've got over a century of tradition of a notion of chastity, a notion of inheritance, and you've then add this conservative tendency toward revulsion on top of it. It's based in a very primitive, in terms of reproduction, it's based also in a very primitive, baked-in sort of sense that humans have. Because for women, reproduction is incredibly expensive and it's very risky. It's important for women to be discriminating about who they decide to have children with. Because the woman is vulnerable during periods of the pregnancy and then has this infant to take care of. So you end up with an evolutionary psychology thing that sort of has developed over time as well. So you've got things that are 100,000 years old, you've got things that are 2,000 years old, and you've got things that are about 600 or 700 years old, all coming into this big culminating thing of Lauren Chen sitting there being offended at this conference. Her viewpoint is the sum total of an awful lot of stuff all going into a very young package, and I doubt she really understands all of what's happening inside her own brain. Because I know at my age, at her age, I wouldn't have understood it either.
No, and I mean, it does not mean that I am not revulsed by the notion of prostitution, because I personalize it. When I think about it, I would not want to live that life at all. There are people who are capable of separating the commodity from their personal feelings. I don't know how they do it. I
don't know how they do it either.
I often wonder if they're not a bit broken, because there usually is a pretty strong connection between our psyches and our bodily integrity.
I don't think they're as honest with themselves as they think they are.
I don't think they are either. I don't think they are either. Or there's some pathologies there. And I would want to make sure, like, I could not run a brothel.
Well, sure you could. It'd be easy to run a brothel.
I couldn't.
You do great at it. I'd teach you some basic bookkeeping.
No, I couldn't do it because I would be too worried about the psyche of my girls.
Oh.
What I'm saying is I
actually care about humans.
Yeah.
I have a short story for you when
I'm not sociopathic.
Yeah, that's
entirely. I'm not entirely sociopathic.
That makes me feel better.
I'm afraid I do have certain sociopathic tendencies. I keep having these Augustina Pinochet fantasies.
Yeah, we still like you.
So
if you're ready, I'm going to tell you a little story about somebody from my family. My great-grandmother. She was a nurse, and she was a very practical sort of woman, but a little bit insane. She had actually, there's a lot of little bit of bits of insanity in my family tree, but that's another story for another time. She would occasionally, when my grandfather would be off at sea, would take in these working girls and try to basically sort of rehabilitate them. And it would annoy my grandfather no end because on one time he came back and found that all his leather-bound books that he had collected had been sold off. She's like, you can buy some new books. She just used that money to help sort of rehabilitate yet another girl. And she just did this sequentially. She was a serial reformer of prostitutes. And she would get them cleaned up and get them off of whatever they were on and make sure that they learned a skill and get them a job, and they would go on and have, like kind of a normal life. I really wish I had been able to meet this woman, even though she did have a little shrine to FDR on her mantle. Because as much as I find a lot of this porn stuff to be kind of unsettling, I really would like to meet. I really wish I could meet her because I would love to know more about the brain that worked that way. To not just sort of talk the talk, but actually walk the walk. Because it wasn't something that she did just once, she did it repeatedly. I once had opportunity to help a porn star because it was the right thing to do. It was a retired porn star, and somebody was trying to do like a shakedown on an internet domain registration. And I helped the guy get his domain back. And they're like, do you want to come, we're having a big party up here in the North Bay, up in Marin. Do you want to come join us? And I'm like, no, it's okay. I'm glad you got your domain back, but I'm just sitting here thinking, this seems like a bad life choice. I don't think this is a culture I want to get necessarily involved with, because if I had done that, I probably would have turned into some sleazy internet pornographer. And I don't think that would have been a good fit for me. I probably would have jumped off a bridge or something.
But you would have been so wealthy.
Yes.
Well, I think I may have told you I know the guy who wrote the first spam bot, right? For sending spam email.
Oh, yes.
Yeah. Living in the valley is great sometimes, but it looks like Jenna's here and she's a seal tonight.
Don't ask.
Okay.
Okay,
It's
I'll
a
tell you.
good-looking seal. I like
It's
that.
Tyler. It's my first child. Well, it's not a child, but sea lion. High school.
Is he lying?
Sea lion. Oh yeah.
I asked you that.
No.
Sea lion.
He's a good guy.
He's a good guy.
Jesus.
Probably the only animal I'll ever actually say I have.
Alrighty.
Seals are fun.
Sea lions. They're sea lions. We've had this conversation.
Oh, I didn't know they had sea lions in Rhode Island.
They don't. It was in the New England Aquarium. He was in the New England Aquarium. And then he died of bone cancer in Chicago.
They certainly do. They do have sea lions on just off the coast of Rhode Island, guaranteed.
No, we have seals.
And they have seals too.
And sharks. And now orcas.
Yay. The hellscape that is Rhode Island.
Yeah, I love Rhode Island.
The hellscape that is right. You know, it's so funny because my picture of Rhode Island for years was colored by my 6 months that I lived in Newport. Where
Yes, dear.
I lived on base. I when I got Liberty, I dashed across the Tappan Zee Bridge into New York to go see my girlfriend at the time. And I spent just a very little bit of time really in Newport. Did some of the touristy things, but beyond that, didn't really do much around there. But I always thought it was very pleasant and so forth. Then I had a month-long consulting gig in Providence, and I got to know what a shithole, shithole Rhode Island really truly is.
I was gonna say you had the really like your pretty view.
Your version of Arkansas, isn't it? I mean,
I
it's
don't
just
actually
full of
live in Rhode
horrifying people. It's full of horrifying people. Everyone there is corrupt. The politicians are all corrupt. Every single one of them is corrupt. Half of them are in jail. Mm-hmm. Half the governors of Rhode Island go to jail right after their term is up.
It has to be, will you be a felon after? And they have to check the yes box to get elected.
Yeah. The mayor of Providence had, I think, just gone to jail when I was up there. And the scales fell away from my eyes, and I got to see Rhode Island, all of its disgusting, poverty-ridden telephone poles everywhere with wires in the air everywhere.
It's a city.
Yeah,
it's a small city.
I know.
They have a mall now.
The telephone poles look like they're straight out of 1959.
They probably are.
Yeah, I think they are.
Rhode Island has money to fix telephone poles.
Yeah, that's because Buddy Cianci and people like that took all the money.
Cianci, Buddy Cianci. They still talked about him when I was there.
He was an amazing guy. He was pretty entertaining, actually. If you're going to have a mobster as your mayor, at least he should be entertaining.
And he was really mobbed up, wasn't he?
Of course he was.
Of course he was. It's Rhode Island.
Rhode Island.
Rhode Island. Whitey Bulger.
Rhode Island is.
Oh yeah, that's right.
Is meth?
So did my family.
Meth, heroin, fentanyl, and welfare queens.
Yeah, no kidding.
And the sad thing is there's some beautiful areas in Rhode Island, and I'm not just talking about Newport, but
which is beautiful though. By the way,
it is beautiful. And you were in the high class part of Rhode Island,
and the one and only
right down the way. We sailed by Millionaire's Row on this reserve destroyer that we used to do day cruises on. And I remember this always used to piss me off. This little pet peeve that I had. I remember one time in particular, we were sailing back from sea trials. Now, I had basically been awake for the last 72 hours. Essentially had probably 20 minutes of sleep in 72 hours. I was punchy. I was just pissed. And we're sailing toward the Golden Gate Bridge. We're coming around the bend from the south. And we'd ended up our ops down there and ended our sea trials down there. And we were sailing past it, and I saw some people on the beach. And it was like they should have been at work. It's like 11 o'clock in the workday. And we were close enough. I could see that they were, adult. They were not kids. They were adults. I was thinking to myself, those are trust bunnies frolicking on the beach. Not a care in the world, having a great time. And I've got this mountain of cares. All the shit I've got to do, and I'm already exhausted. And when we pull into port, that's when supply officers go to work. Fuck my life in triplicate. I just felt bitter. I remember how bitter I felt at that moment.
And you walked into a recruiter's office under your own steam. So there's this self-recrimination on top.
Oh, jeez. I completely did this to myself. I hate my life. And I remember thinking at the time, and I had just been in for just 2.5 years at that point when this happened. And I said, I'm gonna do my bit, and I'm going to get out, and I'm never going to wear another uniform again as long as I live. I was very sick and tired of the Navy that day. You have different days when you don't like your occupation, and that was seeing those people out there frolicking, having a good time, and thinking, why do they get to do that and I don't?
Yeah. And then Skep went to work for EDS.
Yeah, right.
I just want to make sure the Golden Gate Bridge isn't near Rhode Island. All the people listening, nowhere near.
It was just a quick subject shift.
I could have got on at EDS, by the way.
Oh, I'm sure you could have.
It would have been better putting in the application. And it doesn't have anything to do with knowing the Perot family. I mean, because that doesn't help you at EDS. It really, truly does not. They're militantly against that kind of stuff. At least until you get to be one of the leaders of EDS, then that's the only thing that matters. But anyway.
Well, Ross Perot was interesting as a political figure. I remember Dana Carvey used to do a hell of a Ross Perot impersonation.
Yes, he did.
None of your business.
One of the better sketches of sort of the middle years of SNL had to be when he was doing his impression of Ross Perot, and he was making a deal with the American people that basically, unless the GDP went up a certain number, a certain percentage, he would take zero salary. But then, as the GDP went up further and further, he got paid more and more money. And it was sort of like it was like 4%, I get $1 trillion. You just sort of keep going up and up and up.
I was young.
I know. SNL used to be funny.
Didn't Ross Perot buy airtime and just talk for like hours?
No, that was someone else. That's a guy named Scott. That was a pastor named Scott. What's his last name? I can't. Reverend Scott. What was his first name? Can't remember his first name, but he was out of California. He's out of Los Angeles, and I know exactly who you're talking about. And he used to get on and just maunder on and on and on the UHF channels. He used to haunt the UHF channels back in the day.
Glory be.
Yeah, but anyway. No, Ross Perot is, he might be an eccentric, but he wasn't truly crazy. I mean, he was, he definitely had some eccentricities, and a very.
He's mad about his daughter's wedding. That's for damn sure.
Why was he mad about his daughter's
funny
wedding?
Family.
The Bushes. He blamed the Bushes for some nonsense. I can't remember the details of it. it was just like, oh, stop. It's like, I thought this was going to be an entertaining election. No. That and he served as a spoiler, and we ended up with William Jefferson Clinton.
Yep, that's exactly right. That's the reason that Clinton won.
Yeah.
I mean,
And now,
Thanks, Ross. We ended up with Hillary.
And now you know the rest of the story.
Well, the thing was having Clinton set us up for George W. Bush.
Yes.
And that George W. Bush, to me, was a ruinous president. People talk about, Donald Trump ruined the United States, all that stuff. No.
no, he didn't.
Go back and see who started the out of control spending, and you'll find it's George W. Bush.
Yep.
He's the one who ruined us economically, and he did, and he knows he did. He's a smart enough man to know that. I think he deeply regrets that. And
Hey, get my.
and President Obama did no good service to the United States when he said, "Yeah, we're going to address the deficit." He addressed it by doubling it.
That's a cute video, Terry.
That is a seal, not a sea lion.
Don't care.
If it was a sea lion, it'd be a lot bigger.
Yeah.
Oh, that's an otter. Is that an otter?
No, that was a seal.
It isn't.
That would have. It was an otter.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's an otter.
That was a large otter.
Yeah.
That was a oceanic otter.
Otter. Thank
Yeah.
you. Well, they're so
Yeah.
similar looking to seals. To me.
That's not the little river otters.
Yeah, river otters are so adorable. The oceanic otters. Yeah,
They're fucking monsters.
They're mean.
They are.
I had a lot of not just crazy people, but a number of the people that I came from, my ancestors, were not what I would call classy people all the time. My grandmother had one of these sweatshirt things that somebody painted a sea otter on, and then they put rhinestones where the eyes were supposed to be.
Ooh, gross.
And I just thought to myself, oh my God, no wonder you put ice in your Chardonnay. Jesus, woman.
Oh, God. Yeah.
Even I know you're not supposed to do that.
Which one, the rhinestones or the ice in the Chardonnay?
Both.
Half and half goes in Chardonnay, right?
Oh, yeah. Huh. Yeah, and an egg and put it in the blender. I don't know. That sounds terrible.
Make it a cake.
Happy breakfast.
That's a disgusting smoothie.
Do you have it? The thing is that Skep, I know enough about Skep's father to know that he probably doesn't have these kinds of stories. Skep's father was a guy who kind of had his shit together and an amazing guy. My family was just full of these weird, eccentric sort of elements. I think this might be why I'm so incredibly uptight about things. In terms of, I don't know, I had... it's just, I get really annoyed by bad design and things that aren't particularly classy sometimes. Maybe I just decided I wanted to actually have standards in my life.
Nothing
Or you
wrong
could
with
be
that.
a snob.
Yeah. Hey, one person's
Or
standards
not.
or another person's snobbery. I mean,
Hey,
I like things that are simple. They just have to be simple and good. Like Jason was making biscuits and gravy the other day.
Yeah.
And for me, biscuits and gravy, the only time I get biscuits and gravy is when I'm on vacation or it's a holiday. And this is a rule that I had to make for myself, or I would eat biscuits and gravy every freaking morning.
Yeah, it's not good for you,
Oh, no, but
No,
it's
it's not particularly good for you. But I do have some biscuits and gravy MRE. Well, they're not MREs. They're I did have biscuits and gravy MRE, but those are all expired now. But I have some of the military, essentially SOS in a can. Anything sort of in that meat and gravy over toast category is good in my opinion. Chip beef on toast, SOS, biscuits and gravy. It's all good stuff.
He didn't steal it. He bought it.
You want to know one that is just one of my favorites, and it's one from my youth, is taking a piece of buttered toast and putting a fried egg over medium on top of it,
Oh,
and then
God,
just
yes.
cutting it all up, putting salt and pepper on it, and calling that breakfast. That's
Oh, I
just awesome.
I don't
breakfast.
trust people who don't mop up their egg yolk.
Right, exactly.
It's
Yeah, that's just
odd.
wrong.
It
What?
is. It's just like no. The proper way of doing it is the soft boiled egg. You know, the toast and soldiers,
Right.
and egg and soldiers. Toast and soldiers. The soldiers is the toast, Betsy. God. The anyhow.
Is
the
a toast and soldier seem like a one-eye salmon or eggs in a basket?
eggs and soldiers is a soft boiled egg and toast cut into strips that you can dip in
Oh,
the egg cup.
okay.
Yep. Used to eat that as a kid all the time. Loved it.
Oh yeah, I mean, anybody if somebody orders their egg over hard, I'm like, get a a hard boiled egg.
Hard boiled egg. Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
it's like, look, I love eggs. I love eggs any way they're done. I really, really do. But if I want
I actually
breakfast,
like them over easy. Point
Yeah.
of fact, I like a runny yolk.
I like a runny yolk too, and I don't like liquid albumin, so that's why I like the over easy.
Yeah.
And it you know, there's a technique to getting that over easy, right? And
That's
it's
exactly right.
oh, and there's nothing. I have literally eaten 3 or 4 eggs at breakfast because I bust a yolk, flipping it, and I'm like, fuck that, and crack another egg in the pan. Like, I am going to get 2 perfect over easy eggs. I don't care how many goddamn eggs I end
I
up
don't care.
eating today.
Yeah, I don't care how many errors I eat.
Yeah, oh,
Give me
yeah,
a few
'cause
good ones.
it doesn't matter. You know? There's a dish that a restaurant serves around here that is
I
so
get that.
goddamn good.
Yeah.
Except they fuck their eggs every time, and it makes me so angry that I finally got it. They offered it to go without the eggs, and I got it, and I did my own over easy eggs
Mhm.
and reheated the dish. But it's baked polenta
Mhm.
on wilted spinach sitting in a spicy marinara with, you can get mozzarella or gorgonzola melted onto
That's pretty wonderful,
the
actually.
polenta, and then you can add the over easy eggs.
Well, polenta anyway. But
Yeah, well, I mean, I love grits, but polenta sets up nicely for that baked polenta.
I actually like polenta better than grits.
Um,
I'm a traitor to my southern
Aren't they
heritage.
the same thing?
Yeah, well, one's a more fine grain.
Oh, okay.
Yep.
Polenta is
It's
more
all about
finely.
the grind.
Okay.
Polenta's closer to cornmeal than it is to grits, as far as grain.
Grits are bigger chunks.
Yeah.
Yeah, and not
The
like
polenta.
hominy. I mean, hominy is hominy is the lye-soaked entire kernel softened. But if you mush hominy up and thin it out with water, it's like grits.
Yeah.
I like them both because they're a method of moving butter, salt, and pepper to my face.
Right.
And
Exactly.
occasionally cheese. Cheesy grits
Butter
are good
vehicles.
too.
Cheesy
Yeah.
cheesy
Cheese
grit-
grits are actually better than regular grits. Also, in my
And
opinion.
fried
Well, yeah,
grit
because
cake-
they've got added
fried-
cheese.
Yes,
Well,
exactly.
fried grit cakes are amazing. I've had shrimp and grits done with a fried shrimp cake,
Mm-hmm.
and
Sounds good.
it is. It was at Pat O'Brien's of all places because I always think of that as a bar, and not like having great
in
food.
Louisiana.
Yeah, in New Orleans, and it was not what you would call traditional shrimp and grits in that it was like it
It's
wasn't.
funny
the
to think you've been to Pat O'Brien's because I have too.
It was.
I've eaten there.
You know, instead of the tasso ham, kind of the grits just slopping up the gravy and run-ins from the shrimp and ham and that kind of thing. It was more like a shrimp creole, maybe, very well seasoned over a lightly cheesed, because you can over cheese grits if you know what I mean. Gouda and grits go together beautifully. You can actually put Asiago in grits or something like that and give it a slightly sharper taste. But it was a mildly cheesed grit cake with like shrimp creole dumped on top of it. And next to etouffee, which crawfish etouffee is just, oh God, is it good.
Oh yeah, that's really good. Don't say anything bad about that.
Etouffee is amazing. But that polenta dish, and that's an easy thing that you can make at home, because basically you'd cook up the polenta in a pot and spread it in a slightly deep pie pan and bake it. And then, you basically have slices of it, like pie slices, that you could then put cheese on and run it under the broiler real quickly just to melt the cheese. Set it on wilted spinach and a spicy marinara and put a couple of eggs on top of it, and you would have a very different breakfast.
Yeah.
It's a brunch dish, obviously.
Seafood I love gumbo, and we get it from a local bar.
Nice.
I can't eat it really all the time or really ever, but the rest of the family loves it.
Yeah, the first time I had gumbo was we made a video on it.
Yeah, it's seafood gumbo. It's so good. And I love okra.
Yeah.
A lot of
like
people
okra.
don't, and I don't get why.
Well, I don't like it because it's slimy.
Mucilaginous.
It is okay. There's one really nice thing about that mucilage and okra.
Yeah.
It's an anti-inflammatory.
Oh.
I mean, it's a healthy ass food. Okra is, but if you pickle okra, it's not slimy.
Okay.
Boiled okra is slimy. The okra serves as the thickener in gumbo because that mucilaginous nature of it helps thicken it, and of course you have a roux to start, so you've got those two things going for you. But pickled okra is out of this world, and fried okra,
Fried okra is good. It's delicious.
Movie theaters need to sell that instead of popcorn.
I actually find pickled cactus pretty good too.
I've never had it.
Yeah.
Let me just give you just a little bit of background on okra here.
Don't make me not like it.
Okra is rich in nutrients. No, it's really good. It has an impressive nutrient profile, and it has folate, magnesium, vitamin A, vitamin C, vitamin K. It's got B6. It's just kind of amazing. It has beneficial antioxidants. Just too many to even talk about.
It's a super antioxidant.
Antioxidant. They're talking about eating okra seems to be identified with increasing your good cholesterol. So that's another thing it does. Yet another thing, it may have anti-cancer property. I shit you not. Okra contains a type of protein called lectin, and it may inhibit the growth of a wide variety of human cancer cells. One test tube study in breast cancer cells found that the lectin in okra may prevent cancer cell growth by up to 63%.
Jesus Christ, that's impressive.
Yeah.
Tock. There's a brand called Tock of Texas. Pickled okra.
Yes,
and they make a mild.
They make it down here.
They make a mild and they make a hot.
Only by the hot.
Well, the mild is fine.
Mild is fine, but the hot is
fine,
amazing.
But the hot is out of this world. And it's not super, super duper spicy. Don't be fooled by it. It's not like you're sticking a hat.
There are 2 jars in my refrigerator, and it's Tock of Texas hot, both of them now.
I can eat an entire jar of that. And,
yes, have done that.
And the caps.
Have done that.
Some people will leave the caps, and I'm like, screw that.
No.
There's nothing left in my mouth.
The whole thing is gone. Yes, right.
Pickled okra and fried okra are my favorite ways of. I mean, I like it in gumbo, but okra is a word. It's a West African. Gumbo is a West African word for okra. So that's kind of how gumbo got its
well, listen
name.
to this. It may lower blood sugar levels.
Damn.
It may work very much the way that cinnamon
works.
Does? Yeah. It is also beneficial for pregnant women because of all the folate. It's a big folate conduit, and that's a big deal for pregnant women. It helps lower the risk of
spina bifida.
Neural tube defect. Yeah. It's easy to cook. It's easy.
The
Okra.
MotZ recipe that I have that uses okra
Mhm.
is this is a stupid easy recipe. I use andouille, but you can use any smoked sausage. It's Holy Trinity, onion, bell pepper, and garlic. Cut up sausage. You fry that off, and then you add like a cup of sliced okra. It can be fresh or frozen.
Mhm.
And it's, I think, 2 cups of corn, fresh or frozen, and tomatoes. And just
do you cook it like in a wok?
skillet.
In a skillet. Okay.
Just in a skillet. You're just warming it through because corn releases its kind of sweet milk, and tomatoes have that acid, so that the okra doesn't develop the mucilage.
Yes,
but the dish thickens a little bit because of those liquids being in it.
They tell you if you're doing okra, take like just a teaspoon of like apple cider vinegar. Throw that in the cook pot, and it reduces the mucilage of a pot full of okra.
Yeah, because a pot full of okra is a pot full of green slime, and it's tough.
If you make it acid, there's actually a chemical change that happens to reduce that effect.
The amazing thing about okra is, people have said, "What does it taste like?"
Okra.
And it tastes like green.
Yeah, it tastes like green. Excellent.
And it's the only description. Kind of like raw green beans taste like green.
Yeah.
They're very, very verdant.
Yeah, you can taste the chloroform.
It's you just know you're eating a green vegetable, and there's something about it that tells you this is good for you. Like even when you're eating it fried.
Jason, do you like okra?
No.
You're not an okra fan, huh?
No.
Have you ever had it pickled?
I had it pickled, no.
Yeah.
You might
get
try
some
that.
okra, and you get some okra, and everybody gets okra. Look under your seats.
I could try and do a video on it.
Okra Winfrey.
Exactly.
It sounds like they need to start serving it at hospitals.
Yeah.
Speaking of sausage, by the way, you might notice what I put on the screen here. Did you guys want to talk about Phallus One, Jeff Bezos' new spacecraft?
Oh yes, let's definitely talk about
That's
this.
called overcompensation.
Take it
to steal
away
a joke from Tucker Carlson, can you embiggen me and make that full
Certainly,
screen?
Absolutely.
Phallus One.
Well, first of all, is that not the most dick-shaped spacecraft you've ever seen?
It even has the little mushroom cap. It's so adorable.
It's a little circumcised spaceship.
Good
Congratulations
God.
there.
It does look just like that.
It just peeled. Okay, so
what's that around the frenulum?
So Jeff Bezos got in this thermos bottle full of explosives and then took off in his penis shaped spaceship. And look at the production values of this
out
thing.
In space.
And look, does that look even more penis-like now?
Yes.
Yes.
It looks like a dildo. It really does.
It looks like the dildo going to heaven. The little dildo lost its life, and its little dildo soul went to heaven.
It looks like somebody shoved a dildo in a bottle of Mentos and Diet Coke, and then just launched it into the air.
Bottle rocket.
Yeah, exactly. So that happened today.
Yeah.
Now, the one thing is, I think just the huge level of hate that seems to be coming from this and Branson's space plane. All these people going, I think we shouldn't have billionaires, and they shouldn't have enough money to do things like this, and I think they're dumb. Okay,
I think a lot of people saying that.
Yeah, and I think mostly they're thinking, I know what to do with this money more than they do. I've decided that it's up to me to decide how somebody else should spend their money that they earned legally.
Jealousy.
Well, jealousy is certainly part of it, but I'd say it's not jealousy; it's envy.
Yeah,
it's actually all the way to one of the 7 deadly sins. I mean, it skipped over jealousy and landed straight on envy.
And the people who are sitting on the sloth pod, very frequently are the ones with the high levels of envy.
Yeah.
Have you noticed that? It's
How did we allow this situation to get this way? Well, it was
Well, we
by
allowed people who were receiving free stuff from the government to vote.
yes.
Now, this is, I mean, I'm just sort of spitballing here. Don't anybody take this too terribly seriously. But I think you could make a pretty good argument for saying that when you end up on government assistance, if you're essentially a net taker, you lose the right to vote until such time as you get your stuff back together. Because
so back to owning land is a requirement to vote.
No, not owning land. You just have to not be dependent on the state. Because
How do you prove
if you allow people who are it basically goes along with I'm applying for government assistance. Mm-hmm. They go, oh, okay. Well, until you get back on your feet, here. you don't get to basically just vote yourself more free stuff at somebody else's expense.
But you're talking about voter ID there, Harry.
I'm going way past voter ID and taking away the franchise temporarily. I don't care what color somebody's skin is when you do this. Because what's the alternative? We just let a larger group of people just vote themselves more free stuff.
You're going to take the black people's vote away, aren't you, Harry?
Black people aren't all impoverished.
Yeah, skin color doesn't really enter into it.
There's a whole plane full of COVID super spreaders that said otherwise, Jen.
Yep. I have seen plenty. I've seen plenty of lower class white people on assistance, and I would happily. I'm not saying they shouldn't get the assistance, but is it really right for the government to exist, to have a huge welfare state, and then for people to use the franchise just to decide to take money away from the people making all the money?
One of those wise, dead white European racists said that once they figure they can vote themselves money, it's all over.
Yep.
And they've figured that out. They have stooges in D.C. working as their mouthpieces, and they vote more money for them, while they're also voting more money for themselves. It's a great, great little scheme that they've got going on. And if there isn't enough money, you make the money machine go brrr, and nothing bad will happen. Printing more money will not cause inflation.
I think the one you're thinking of, Prospero, was when the people find that they can vote themselves money, that will herald the end of the Republican, said by one B. Franklin.
Yes. Yeah, one of those dead white European racists.
Yeah.
Evil bastard.
Well, he was guilty
he was born in America.
All the air bathing. So that's
nasty little nudist.
Yeah, it is a problem, but it's the whole. They basically are saying that if the system wasn't rigged, Jeff Bezos wouldn't have all this money.
Oh, bullshit! None of them thought of Amazon.
That's the implication that these people have. That now a lot of Jeff Bezos's success is because he was the right guy in the right place at the right time,
and took a shit ton of risk. I don't know if nobody seems to remember. Because most of these motherfuckers running their mouth were too young to know this. Mm-hmm. I remember how long Amazon ran in the red. It was a long chunk of time. I remember when it was set up. I remember having an entire conversation with Cree about this, saying, I don't know why people are so impatient for them to start showing a profit. Because he has an amazing model here. This is an amazing model. It's an expensive one to set up. There is a fuck ton of infrastructure involved in this. And an amazing amount of coordination because he's working as a brokering house for a lot of people making things. And then he flipped into the black, and it was unstoppable. And now, of course, people hate Amazon now. But at the time, I'm sorry, it was a brilliant fucking idea.
No, he isolated his fixed expenses brilliantly, and his variable expenses. He really found a way to grow and have his variable expenses increase at a very slow rate, and the wash of money that came his way is just crushing.
And the wash of money that goes downstream to all those people that sell their shit via Amazon is pretty impressive. No one counts that. But he was the one, he and the investors that he put together were the ones that put their asses on the line and all that money. And if that thing had gone tits up after 7 or 8 years of running in the red, there would have been a lot of angry people. Jeff Bezos' name would have been mud. So it's like Elon and PayPal.
Yeah.
These were very, very good ideas. They were intuitive leaps ahead. It was a Sears catalog for everything.
Yes.
Is what Amazon was. It was taking an old idea and repackaging it and repurposing it. And what do you hear out of people now? Look at all the thousands of people that are employed by Amazon, one way or the other. As
New York.
And all you hear is, well, they're not getting paid a living wage.
Well, a lot of people are jealous of other people's success.
Well, that's it. That's it. And
they deny that the other person's success was something organic. They assume not only are they jealous, but they assume that it was unfair.
Yeah,
it wasn't unfair. Anybody that was around when it was started realized what a risk it was. It was an entirely new approach to retail. And yes, there are downstream problems. There are downstream problems. There are problems with mom and pops and storefronts. But there are also those storefronts that also sell their shit on Amazon.
Yep.
And they're in competition with themselves, so to speak. But not really, if you get my drift. Yep. So it's... Look, business models, people's preferred way of shopping, it comes and goes. There are cycles to this. You can, if you look at retail, you can see it. And the cycle has not necessarily locked in big box. There has been a return in some places to Main Street, to certain boutique businesses. Entrepreneurs find a way.
Yeah.
They look for opportunities and niches that haven't been explored yet. But all Jeff Bezos did was take the Monkey Ward catalog, the Sears catalog, put it online as a central clearinghouse.
Well, he did a lot more than that.
Oh,
and you've already said that. You've already said as much. So I'm not telling you something you don't already know. But
the capital investment in that was enormous. And his investors were in it for a fuck ton of money. And it was an expensive
it was publicly
project.
Traded.
Yeah.
People, if you thought Jeff Bezos was going to lose money, you are more than welcome to sell short on Amazon stock if you want, or just not buy the stock, or whatever.
I wish I bought it the day he thought it up.
Yeah. You are more than welcome to have purchased that stock. Now, I can't give anybody a time machine. I own Amazon stock. It's been very good to me. I also own Apple stock. I've made a lot of money off of Apple stock. Yep. Because we have relatively uncorrupted capital markets, certainly compared to most other countries in the world, everyday people can get involved in this stuff. And a lot of people through index funds and retirement funds and other things probably own a piece of this too. So it's not like Jeff Bezos made all of this money and it only ended up going to him. He only owns just a fraction of it. And if he wants to build a rocket that looks like a giant dick and fly up into near or low orbit, fine. It's his money. Let him do what he wants. But there
A
are
lot
these
of-
people who've never accomplished a damn thing in their life. They're activists. So all they do is raise awareness of how they could use somebody else's money to be more successful than they are. It's like, I don't mean to sound like Trump, talking about, well, we don't honor or pay attention to losers, but seriously, what are these activists bringing to the table with their awareness?
Well,
Nothing.
and the weird
Bullshit.
thing is, like, people will bring up, trickle down doesn't work. There's no such thing as trickle down. How many millionaires were made out of Microsoft?
Trickle down exists whether they believe it or not. It's not like it's an idea that somebody floated and then we said, hey, let's try trickle down. No, this is the way the world works.
It is a
Already.
it is a marketplace dynamic.
Exactly.
There were a whole lot of millionaires made in Microsoft. A lot of those guys might not have made those millions if the whole thing had fallen apart. There are people who have lower risk aversion for time invested and money invested. And it'll pay off really well for them. That first batch of vested people out of Microsoft created a whole lot of people with a whole lot of capital to share with other entrepreneurs who either hit big or hit moderately. A large swath of people in our country are employed by small businesses. Small to medium-sized businesses with 50 or fewer employees. There are all kinds of ways to make a living out there. We are not in a purely automated IT society at all. We're nowhere near that, which is why I was talking to somebody today who kind of sees the world that way because they live in a small town, kind of isolated. And it's like, yeah, but no, you're missing where there are lots of other places. We are moving toward automation, yes. And we're going to have to think quite flexibly about how we encourage people to find gainful ways to feed, clothe, and house themselves. I loathe Ralph Northam, but he's pushing at trade school initiatives in Virginia, which I think is a very, very good idea. We have an incredible shortage of skilled workers. I mentioned feeding, clothing, and housing ourselves. That housing requires electricians, plumbers, HVAC people, framers, masons, people who are skilled. People who can lay tile. Go apprentice yourself to somebody who lays tile. Learn how to lay tile. Learn how to lay tile better than all the other apprentices. And you will find work.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Learn cabinet making.
It's always better to have a skill,
You'll find work. Skilled workers can punch their own fucking tickets now. If they're good at what they do, if they keep
in this country, there is never there's no such thing as unemployment for skilled workers. There literally is not.
Oh, and we have such a shortage.
Unless
it's
they're
terrifying.
disabled.
Yeah.
Hey, what's wrong with disabled people?
Get to work.
I'd raise 30 kids.
No, I know, but the point is, skilled workers, about the only way skilled workers end up on unemployment is if they're disabled on the job.
Yes.
That's about the only way a trained electrician is going to end up not working as a trained electrician.
Sanguine likes to wax poetic and talk about going back to the guilds. Well, you don't have to go quite that far back. But going back to skilled workers, look, if I had it all to do again, literally, if I had it all to do again, knowing what I know now, I'd go to trade school. Everybody would look at me like I was insane. They'd all assume I was a lesbian. There would have been all kinds of social consequences to that. And I would have smiled very sweetly and said, talk to me in 30 years. How do you like me now?
Yeah.
If I had gone into...
How's your 401k?
Yeah. More women should be considered really seriously Start considering this, girls. Consider being an electrician.
Yeah.
You don't have to
what?
deal with shit and heavy pipes. You don't have to climb ladders and get all dusty and try to hook together HVAC systems. I mean, if you like that kind of work, do it. It'll be more wearing on your body. Electricians, learn not to electrocute yourself, and you'll be golden.
Well, to be an electrician, I think you need a sponsor.
It depends.
You also need a certain amount of physical strength. Electricians do some pretty heavy lifting.
Well, they do
Yeah,
some.
no, that conduit doesn't bend itself.
Right. But there are teams of electricians usually that wire houses. It's not just one guy.
Yeah.
Yeah, when you're the new person, you get to go into the rat-infested crawl space underneath the house to run stuff, unfortunately.
Ugh.
Well, yeah, there's some
Wait, how do you get under the house? There's a basement.
No, there's a crawl space if you don't have a basement. I've been in our crawl space. I've put wire up for cable lines that we were running under the house. It's a lot of fun. You have to roll under the black water pipe. It's a real treat. And you just fucking do it because it needs to be done. It's like cleaning out your dryer lint from your damn dryer vent. It's there's some jobs that aren't pretty. Yes, gals, you might get a little dirty.
Dirt's good for you.
But if there aren't a lot of women in skilled trades, there are a lot.
No, there used to be.
There's one area where women could distinguish themselves. Learn how to lay tile. Tile work is dirty and dusty, and it requires a lot of kneeling and math. Arithmetic, really, and some geometry might help.
As jobs that involve wearing knee pads go, it's one of the more dignified ones.
Yes, it certainly is. But somebody who's really good at laying tile, holy shit, you want to talk. I mean, the people that laid the tile for our bathroom remodels were a team of guys that travel up from El Salvador every year to work. So they're coming in doing
Central Americans and stonework.
Coming in on green cards.
It's the best in the world. It's the best in the world.
These guys, they didn't speak English very well, but a guy had picture after picture after picture of jobs that they had done. Restaurant flooring and that kind of stuff. It's absolutely exquisite work. I went and looked at the tile work.
And they're real craftsmen too, aren't they?
There wasn't a flaw in the tile. There wasn't and there was one.
But I mean, their skills, the skills that they have those are real skills. It take a long time to develop.
Yeah, you could be a brick mason. In the South, people still use a lot of brick, particularly face houses.
I live in a brick house.
Yes, you're going to, when you're the apprentice, you're going to be hotting like you don't. Your arms and shoulders will ache.
Mm-hmm.
Go into landscape architecture. Houses are being, these housing communities are getting built. They hire landscape architects. They hire people like that. That's not sitting in an office and looking pretty. It's being out in the heat and the dirt and the rain, and it's being dusty, but you can make a fuck ton of money doing it. And it's, people will think it was perfectly acceptable to be a florist, but they won't think it's perfectly acceptable to be an electrician. Or it's like, what the fuck is the problem? Everybody wants a white-collar job. Everybody wants their 4-year degree because we sold these people a bill of fucking goods. Unless you have a specific career in mind for that 4-year degree, like IT, STEM, you want to be a teacher?
Don't do it.
I know, but you know what I'm saying. Fine, we're going to need educators. We do need them. We actually need actual real educators, not teachers. But we'd be better off if 90% of the kids going into high school right now all said, I want to go in the trades. You'd be amazed at how much better off we would be in 10 years.
Skep.
Well, that's not to say that people shouldn't necessarily learn art history or medieval Italian or all the other sorts of things, but instead of it being an entitlement or requirement, if we essentially either you had to be rich or you had to be good enough to earn a scholarship to get your place as the best of the best, we wouldn't have nearly as many of these people. And the people that we did have coming out, the degree would actually mean something, because the market wouldn't be glutted with far more supply than there is demand.
But when
I have a friend of mine who, his wife actually studied medieval Italian, and it was years before they were able to find a teaching position for her.
Of course.
And I swear he was going to cry like a grown man when he, as a grown man, when he found out that they actually found a place for her. He was actually working for me at the time, and he's like, I got to go. We found a job for the wife, and it's like, wherever that job exists, that's where I'm going to go. I said, good luck and Godspeed, my friend. And we're still friends to this day. But the thing was, I was, as sad as I was to lose an employee, I was really happy that his wife actually found a job doing, what she really dreamed of doing. But for every person like her, there are 1,000 people who think that they're just going to, that it's just going to somehow magically work itself out. They don't really have any kind of plan, or certainly they don't have a husband who works in tech who makes a good income that can basically float them for several years while she eventually finds a job at a small college.
Well, the interviews that I could get as a senior and a history major were insurance companies and banks. It's like what Skep has said when his dad said, so what are you going to do for the rest of your life?
Yeah.
Now that you have your shiny little anthropology diploma, I guess I'm going to join the Navy because nobody's going to, you don't stand outside with a sandwich board saying anthropologist for hire. It doesn't work that way.
You go, OCS looks pretty good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What they
I'll tell you, I was pretty motivated.
What they like, eating is an amazing motivator. I ended up working in retail.
I really did not have a plan B. Just to put a point on that. When I took off for Newport, and I had no idea. I really did not have any idea of what OCS would be like. I stopped off at the Navy Supply Corps School in Athens, Georgia, on my way from Alabama to Newport. I drove through Athens, Georgia, which, if you look on the map, is pretty far out of my way.
Yeah.
That was to meet up with my friend who had been ROTC at Duke and was already a naval officer. So he got commissioned when he graduated from college. The day he graduated from college, he was commissioned in the Navy. And so he was already at Navy Supply Corps School. And he was telling me, OCS, you're going to have a great... And I actually stayed in Wright Hall in the BOQ with him one night on my way up there. And the place where I would come down in 6 months and spend 6 months of my life in that building. Studying the miracles of Navy procurement and supply. So, but all he told me was, it's easy. You'll do fine. You just have to be smart enough to get the math part. And you're going to do fine. And I got up there, and man, I was loaded for bear. I had been running like 5 miles a day. My daily workout was to run 5 miles in the morning, head over to the tennis club where my parents were members, and work out on the backboard in the heat of the day for an hour, just pounding forehands and backhands into against the wall. To work myself to exhaustion, and then I would go play 18 holes of golf, sometimes 27 holes of golf if I had enough time. And then I'd collapse it, and then I would go home and I would study, I was studying principles of navigation, basics of navigation, stuff like that from my father's Naval Academy textbooks, from 35 years before. A lot of that stuff doesn't change.
Yeah, that's true.
The
But
celestial navigation was identical.
well, you did a smart thing as far as the physical conditioning went, because
I was in so much better shape than most of them. I was probably in better shape than everybody in my company except Danny Sharp, the SEAL.
Yeah,
Of course, the stars were different when you were a kid, so
yes,
you had to adjust to that.
Had the North Star come out yet?
No, the North Star hadn't even been created yet.
Yeah, well, it was North Star 0.1 Alpha. They replaced it with the one that we have now, which is
it was
0.99, which is better.
He practiced on the beta.
Yeah, exactly.
And then
it's gone GA now.
So. Yeah, when they cleared it for general release, it was fine. Exactly. And then everybody went, "Oh, okay, cool. Get out the sextants,
Put me all
boys."
you want. I still think I'm funny.
Yeah.
Speaking of funny things, did you hear about the trick beds in Tokyo? Lustful Olympic athletes should think twice before making the bedrock in Tokyo. The world's best sports competitors are set to spend their nights on cardboard beds, allegedly designed to collapse under the weight of fornicators and to discourage sex amid COVID-19. Olympic officials who already warned 2021 Games participants to avoid two-person push-ups because of the coronavirus have set up 18,000 of the cardboard beds in the notoriously sex-crazed athletes' village, according to the Zine magazine. Beds to be installed in the Tokyo Olympic Village will be made out of cardboard. This is aimed at avoiding intimacy among athletes, American distance runner Pete Chilimo tweeted. Beds will be able to withstand the weight of a single person to avoid situations beyond sports. Chilimo cracked, "I see no problem for distance runners. Even 4 of us can do."
I was going to say.
Another Olympian, Irish gymnast Rhys McClenaghan, said in a video posted to his Twitter account that although the beds are made out of cardboard, they're perfectly sturdy. In the video, McClenaghan jumps up and down on his bed to illustrate how the furniture doesn't crumble under his weight. Olympic athletes have never shied away from hanky, but officials have warned it could spell particular trouble this year amid the pandemic. The 100% recyclable cardboard beds were designed by the Japanese company Airweave. But officials are apparently aware it's going to take a lot more than the makeshift berths to keep players out of the pole position, so to speak. They are distributing a cache of condoms to the athletes, since they have at every Olympic Games since 1988. This year, the condom tally is 160,000. Still, it's a far cry from the 450,000 doled out for last Summer Olympics in Rio de Janeiro, Brazil in 2016. This year, Olympic officials insist the rubber is for athletes to bring home to spread the message of safe sex. Our intent and goal is not for athletes to use the condoms at the Olympic Village, but to help with awareness by taking them back to their own countries. The Tokyo Olympics organized committee lied in a statement to Japan today.
Condoms are for closers.
At least 2 athletes have already tested positive for coronavirus at Tokyo Olympic Village, officials said Sunday, and they were publicly slaughtered later Sunday night. Another resident of the village, a visitor from abroad involved in the game's planning, was reported as having tested positive a day earlier and was slaughtered earlier this morning. So they're taking action, at least.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Didn't a gymnast test positive for COVID?
I don't know. I don't know who it was who tested positive.
I think it was because I remember the article saying it wasn't Simone.
Well, you know what? Here's the thing. I don't want to give fodder to anybody running defense for the dumbass Texas Democrats, but PCR tests are notoriously iffy. I mean, they really are. they've gotten better, but you've seen people test positive and a week later test negative.
Yeah.
Which should not be possible given
No.
That's
the,
why you
the-
repeat the test.
yeah.
Negative tests never mean anything.
Yeah.
Positive tests are the only thing that mean anything. In medicine, positive tests are the only thing that tell you anything. Negative test just means it wasn't a positive test. It doesn't mean you don't have it. It's very hard to prove you don't have something. It's
Thank you, AJAers.
Yeah. Yeah, and but the thing is like I can remember last year, Jimmy Johnson tested positive and got held out of a race in NASCAR, and 3 days later he tested negative.
That's
yeah,
not
but
fair
just
to
because
Jimmy
he tested
Johnson.
negative
But he
probably
had to-
means
but he had the
that
negative-
the test was the negative test was probably faulty.
Yeah, I think he had 5 tests in total. 1 positive, 4 negative.
That's pretty unusual, but you do get occasional false positives.
Well, I know that they've had issues with the PCR testing. And we've got this perversity of the Delta variant, which for people who have been vaccinated tends to present as the common cold. And
Yeah.
I'm sorry, but particularly in the summertime in the northern latitudes, with people who have hay fever and people who have grass pollen sensitivity issues, and there are lots of things blooming. You might be somewhat cold symptomatic or somewhat allergy symptomatic, and be wandering around. So get the vax, people. Really, seriously, because this
Do it for me.
Do it for the immunocompromised. If you're not going to do it for yourself. Not that I'm not insisting you comply. I'm encouraging you to get the vaccine.
I'm just looking at a pollen map of the United States. It's interesting to see this. From about central Alabama all through Georgia, South Carolina, North Carolina, up through Virginia, just almost in northern Virginia, just like 3/4 of the way up to state. That is the hellhole of the United States in pollen. That is the only actually, this is looking at tree pollens.
Tree pollens, all of them are terrible.
But you have such a mixture of them. I mean, there are probably people who feel like they live in Virginia and they're just allergic to the whole state because there is such a variety of pollens. You come out to Texas, come out where we are, we're like 2 classes down from you in quantity and 3 classes below you in variety.
Oh yeah,
Massachusetts.
because we've got.
Massachusetts is 1 class below Virginia, almost all the way through the state.
Topographically, Virginia runs from ocean to Appalachia, and so you have the trees that grow at different elevations. You've got.
That's the only part of West Virginia that has that dark red color that Virginia and those other states that I mentioned is the right along the Appalachians.
Yeah. Yeah, and so we've got the soup to nuts. Somewhere in the state, something is pushing out pollen all the time.
Yeah.
Except in the dead of winter. And even then, pines produce pollen.
Pine. Absolutely.
So they're just not as frisky. They get friskier in the spring.
Exactly.
And our grass pollens are pretty impressive because we have a lot of native grasses.
Yes, and you have a lot of grassland too, particularly out west.
Oh yeah, meadows, like you wouldn't believe, and meadows, plateau altitude meadows, and
especially when you get out toward
flatland meadows. We have lots of farms set in hay,
southwest.
So and then say nothing of the grains. To say nothing of all the plants. I mean, just the rhododendron, the azalea, the things that grow in this state. We're not as lucky to be in Zone 8, but we're Zone 7A and B predominantly. Yep. And so a lot of stuff grows here.
It's just interesting looking at this map. I realized that the single worst state in the United States for pollen, hands down, nothing else in its class is South Carolina.
I believe it.
North Carolina at least has a little bit of relief at the coast, not South Carolina, man.
Yeah, well, South Carolina has a perverse coast. It does not have that consistent coastline.
Yeah.
It's little inlets and islands and that kind of thing. And they also topographically run from rice country to higher altitude out in the far western stretches.
Yeah. Yeah, there's actually skiing out there. Do you know that?
I believe it.
I've gone skiing in
west of Greenville, Spartanburg. Yeah.
Well, actually, I've gone skiing in North Carolina. It was just across the line, but it's up around Boone, North Carolina. And in fact, it was in Boone, North Carolina.
That's a good bit above the line, actually. That's up toward Asheville, north of Asheville.
Isn't that a college town?
Yeah,
Yes,
is.
it is.
Appalachian State University.
That's right. My cousin was captain of the track team there.
They've got quite a music program at that school.
At the Olympic trials for the marathon, and he came in, I think he came in 22nd at Boston.
Yeah, Yankees found out about Boone, goddammit.
Damn those Yankees. Oh, crap.
Well, they did. They found out about the North Carolina mountains because the snowbirds who permanently relocated to Florida woke up in July one day and went, Jesus Christ. And they thought, well, where can we have a second house that we don't have to drive 1,300 miles plus? Oh, the North Carolina mountains are nice. Shit. You know what I mean? It's just like, no. Go somewhere else.
I'm not taking down my sign on the bridge that says you're not welcome back. You left. Stay out. Go away.
Well, there were people I knew who did 6 months in Florida and 6 months in Harwichport. You know, so they had more temperate summers and lovely winters.
My Nana moved down there. She comes back for a week every year, but she moved back there and she said, I'm never coming back. It's never cold.
Yeah, she's down Fort Myers, Port Charlotte, isn't she? That area.
Yeah, sure.
West
Let's
Coast.
dox my Nana. Sorry, Grampy. Sorry, Nana.
Do you know how many goddamn retirement communities there are in the Fort Myers, Port Charlotte area?
Wait,
Oh.
she's in Port Charlotte?
Yeah. Well, no, right now she's in Massachusetts.
Why don't you just post her name and picture? You just gave her name and picture away.
Yeah, I know, really. That would be like saying somebody lives in Miami. You know, it's just that area there is just one retirement community after the other in that area. It's like saying somebody lives at the Villages. Jesus Christ. Has anybody ever looked at Google Maps at the Villages?
Right.
Holy shit.
Okay, I'm sorry. I thought you talked to my grandparents.
We're just teasing.
Yeah. And, you know, honey, you go out on 55 plus places to live and put in Florida and then zoom in on Port Charlotte, Fort Myers. It's like, oh my God, they are overlapping each other. It's a popular place. They have an airport. That's one of the reasons it's a popular place.
They also they live near a pond thingy.
Yeah, and there's also Sanibel Island and Captiva are down in that area.
And I gave their names, Nana and Grampy.
Oh, yeah. There are no Nanas and Grampies in
Yeah,
Florida.
no Nanas, Grampies in South Florida. No, not one. Yeah, Fort Myers is a big retirement community.
Oh, for good reason. You know,
I bet she'd welcome you if you went to go
Big
visit
commercial
her.
fishery, too, by the way.
Hmm? the west coast of Florida is so much nicer than the east coast.
Oh God, yes.
It's
The Gulf Coast.
tale
God,
of
yes.
two different worlds. I could live in Jacksonville again, maybe. I used to say I would never, ever, ever, ever live in Florida
Die
again.
of boredom. That's a boring town. It's got the beach, and that's all.
Oh, fuck you! I was born there.
I'm sorry, Jacksonville. I had to spend some time there. I had a consulting gig in Jacksonville, oddly enough, and I had to spend a couple of weeks there.
I could pretend to be a Jaguars fan. Yeah, it was pretty.
Couldn't.
It was pretty. No, I know I couldn't. I'm too much of a Green Bay fan. It was boring when I was there too.
Yeah,
What little
during
I
my
remember.
one trip to Lower Alabama in the 90s. The thing that I noticed is the biggest difference there was there were no bookstores. You drive around and I just wouldn't see a bookstore, whereas in California I was just used to being surrounded by them. Yeah.
We need only one book. We needs the good book, boy.
I mean, everybody who I met was really nice, but there weren't a lot of deep conversations
were
going on.
They were
you?
using Amazon.
I told you I was in Lower Alabama. I was
So
on
you're
Fulton
like in
Beach.
the Mobile area, or?
Sorry,
And I
you
know
said-
smart people from Alabama,
You
but
said
I
you
just
were
found,
in Fort Walton Beach.
yeah, it was terrible.
You were in Florida. You were in the dick
Yeah.
of the nation.
Talk about Florida. It was like, miles and miles of sugar white beach. Well, I'm glad we've got that going for us here. It was, it was not the most mentally stimulating place
The
to
Villages
live,
has a
but
huge Barnes and Noble.
everything is different now because of companies
He
like
doesn't
Amazon
do Barnes and Noble.
and the internet. You can live literally anywhere and be able to talk to your friends in any other part of the world. You can carry on a conversation with Tailed Feature if you want to. And the world wasn't like that before. I don't think people remember what it was like when if you didn't live near a bookstore, you didn't get to read.
That's right.
There wasn't a bookstore in the block that I was born on, asshole, but I learned to read.
Well,
You know what I mean, though.
Jesus
You know, I'm
Christ, you are
talking beyond the
Californian.
school books,
You are
beyond the
such
school
a
books.
Californian. Oh
Yes,
my
I am. I
God.
was so incredibly spoiled. Oh no, Harry's not going to school today because he's going to drive to Stanford and go to the Stanford bookstore and buy a bunch of books.
Well, ooh la
It's
la la
I was
la.
very spoiled, and they didn't have. But
Snob.
they didn't have. Well, I think it's because they. It's kind of like the old thing about, really good-looking people don't need a sense of humor because everybody's going to like them anyway. That's the thing about Florida. It's like it's beautiful. Just go outside and have your bathtub warm water and swim around in your sugar white beaches. Who needs a freaking book?
Oh,
I know I'm
Good.
terrible.
God.
I grew up in something called the Grove.
And that's why
Yeah.
Floridians
knife
never
you.
invented the wheel.
I know
but
Florida's a
you're
big state,
involved.
and I know there's other parts. If I had my choice, I would have loved to have taken in some of the Art Deco stuff or outside of Miami. I don't want to go to Miami Beach at all, but I would love to see some of the great architecture there. And I know there's food, and I know there's stuff, and all the people were really nice, but it was really hard not to notice the lack of bookstores the one time
You would
I
have
went to
felt right
Florida.
at home in St. Augustine. There would have been all the Spanish shit.
Harry,
Cool.
I like St. Augustine. It's so old.
Yeah,
Go to
it's
Miami
Very
and watch-
old. Older than California.
It's the oldest city in the United
Yeah.
States.
Harry, you could go to Miami and watch Camilla or whatever her name is push all the Cuban people back because they're trying to get rid of,
Well,
Oh my
to mention
God.
this is a weird argument to get in. You literally used to work in bookstores. I talk about bookstores all the time and how much I love them, and then I complain about going to a place with no bookstores, and you call me elitist, person who used to work in a bookstore.
I used to go to the Stanford University bookstore.
No, I love bookstores.
I've been
I
to
would
the
I would
Harvard
always.
Coop. Doesn't make
I
my
would
shit
always
not
go to
smell like
bookstores.
shit, buddy.
Harry, you
Oh
want to
man,
know what I did?
I
as a
used to love
child?
just going. I used to love just going to the bookstore on the corner. I still remember that day that I basically walked to the bookstore from home and I bought a copy of Dune and I sat down and I read that thing and I did not put that thing down until it was done.
Every
You
time
know,
I go
I
to
mean, it was-
bookstore, every time I go to bookstore, I always spend $100 on books. So
Oh, easily.
I know
I-
bookstores
I-
are great.
I want to know about Harry's his experience with Dune. What did you think when you read Dune?
That was completely mind blowing. I'd never read anything like that before.
You were transported, weren't you?
I was transported. I mean, I probably gave myself kidney damage because I did not want to put that book down.
Yes, I understand that. I understand that exactly.
It was,
and I wanted so much more.
Well, you know what I did the next day? I went to that same bookstore and I bought the next 2 books.
Kids of Doom.
Because at the time, that's all there was.
It is a shame because that's not more Dune. It is more Dune, but it's more Dune light.
The third book was okay. The middle book was a bit much.
That was Kids of Dune, wasn't it?
Yeah, talk about disappointment though when you finally saw that the De Laurentiis Dune movie for the first time, and you're like, oh my god, what did you do to my book?
The De Laurentiis or the other one?
The miniseries.
No, the other.
Yeah, the one on Sci-Fi Channel.
I mean the one that didn't get
made. No, the one that did get made. The one that got made back in that.
Yeah, De Laurentiis was the one that got made.
De Laurentiis was the producer.
Oh, yeah. That's right.
Lynch was the director. Yeah,
Lynch was the director.
Oh my god, that movie's horrible.
I think that is the David Lynch movie, not Dino De Laurentiis movie.
That's and the director's cut didn't help.
Yeah, I never saw the first one.
And I love that movie. It's my guilty pleasure.
I'll still watch it every time it comes on. But it's still pure garbage.
It's good garbage, though. It's fun. It's good schlock.
Jason is correct that the Sci-Fi Channel one, the one that had William Hurt in it, I presume that's the one you're talking about.
Yeah.
That was far, far better.
Yeah.
Far better.
Although I'm not sure about Susan Sarandon's casting, that was a bit much.
Okay. There was everything wasn't perfect,
but there was a lot more that was good than bad.
You didn't have Kyle MacLachlan standing around looking pensive,
and you didn't have James Stockwell. Dean Stockwell.
Yeah, James.
You didn't have Dean Stockwell. Stinking up the screen as you. I mean, that was terrible.
Yeah, there was. God, and then poor Patrick Stewart turns in a good performance as Gurney Halleck, and everybody's kind of like, oh yeah, I kind of remember his character. Yeah, I know, because all the others were overacting so much that, An
actual actor.
Yeah. It's a spaghetti western in space. Why do you people all have these ridiculous accents? I mean, although Francesca Annis wasn't that bad.
No, actually, Francesca
and Sean
Annis
Young was actually pretty decent for the role.
Francesca Annis was one of the least objectionable things about it, to me. I apologized to the person I took to see the movie. She had not read the book. And I said, I am so sorry. Please don't let this color your notion of reading the book. Read the book. Really, read the book. Forget you've ever seen this execrable trash and read the book. Because you'll be so much happier.
Give the book a chance.
Yeah. When I first started reading Dune, it took about 50 pages for me to become completely immersed. Because there was a glossary. And I'm a nerd, so I was glossary hop back to book. Glossary hop.
How did you ever finish Moby Dick? Is what I want to know.
I never read it.
I read the comic book version of it.
That's how I finished it.
Because Melville does a lot of that in Moby Dick.
Bartleby the Scrivener. Those are the 3 words that I give people to explain why I've never read another word that Melville put to print.
Yeah.
Awful. I could not abide it. And it's there when a short story makes me want to jump off a bridge because, oh dear God, this thing's never going to end. Yeah, it's not a good way to sell me on somebody's novels. My cousin keeps telling me, you ought to read House of the Seven Gables, because I've told her, I said, Scarlet Letter.
Why?
I said, Scarlet Letter was just, oh my God. I was like, who cares? By the time I got...
Hundreds of pages of I don't care in Scarlet Letter.
I mean, there were moments that I thought, okay, this is oh shit, we're bogged down again.
Yeah.
It's like reading Hemingway.
Or
It's
here
like,
come the descriptions.
oh God. Well, George R.R. Martin said, "Hold my beer" to all of those people.
No shit. No kidding.
Because I had asked Cree, I said, "Is Martin worth reading?" He said, "Oh God." He said, 8 pages to describe a field. This man makes Tolkien look like a piker.
Yeah, and the other thing George R.R. Martin does, and we're going to have to kind of end it here because we've gone over a little bit, but is that he's a data dumper. I mean, he will give you just, here's how all this stuff works, and you better mark that section of the book, with a paper clip so you can refer back to it, so you can see, because that'll be the only place in which that is described how this thing works.
I didn't mind.
He's terrible about that.
When I started Dune, at first I thought, oh God, a glossary, oh dear. And but then I was grateful for it because
there are a lot of new concepts in there.
Right, in the laying out of these characters and who they were and
just
what they were
even
about.
Understand Liet Kynes, you have to have, and what his function is in the book, both as a character and in terms of what he actually does. This the ecologist is
it requires that explanation. And
yes, it does.
And I didn't mind treating the first 50 pages as reference.
Yeah.
Because it's a long enough book that once I had fixed in my mind what the House Atreides was, what this was, got kind of that almost medieval structure put together in my head. I was like, and let's go on an adventure together. And that's what happened.
Yeah, it's an interesting thing. I could talk about Dune forever. And I was going to make a comment about how similar the Bene Gesserit are to the Wheel of Time, Aes Sedai, that you see there. But anyway, guys, we have run out of time, and we've come to the end of it. Does anybody have anything on their mind? Speak now or forever hold your peace.
I want some of that. I want some of that Mentat juice. Is what I want. That stuff sounds like it would be really great for taking the SATs again. If I had.
I want to get my hands on some spice.
Get some of that spice. Get one of those. Get one of their little flying apparatuses. I thought that the whole thing about the Mentats and that whole computer thing didn't work out very well. Was sort of an interesting. We just sort of mentioned this as a means of saying this is why the universe is the way it is.
Right.
A really fantastic book, and my love of Frank Herbert was reinforced when he was on Jim Eason's show on KGO, which is one of the big 50,000 watt stations and big talk radio station on the West Coast. And hearing him talk just made me go out and buy even more of his books. There are very few actual Frank Herbert books that I have not read.
Interesting.
I really enjoyed his stuff, and I think it helped that I'd seen Lawrence of Arabia before I saw the book, because just so much of it was relatable but interesting and new at the same time. That's a hard balance to kind of achieve. Do you need to plug? Are you going to be on with the BP tomorrow?
Let's see. I don't even know if did they do Canadian Wednesday last week? I can't remember or not. So I might be on Blind Press's show tomorrow. But at any rate, we have come to the end of this show. And I did want to thank chat for coming out, listening to us yammer on for a couple hours. And thank you to my panel, my friends who show up and hang with me for a couple of hours. It's always great. It means a lot to me. I just enjoy this so much. I looked up a few quotes about pertaining to freedom. I found an interesting lot that I'll leave you with words of wisdom this evening. You want to fly? You got to give up the shit. Morrison said that, and she wasn't wrong. People demand freedom of speech as a compensation for freedom of thought, which they seldom use, from Soren Kierkegaard. And I definitely agree with that. But the best of the three comes from Benjamin Franklin. He said, "They who can give up essential liberty to obtain a little temporary safety deserve neither liberty nor safety." He wasn't wrong. Something to consider as we go out into the world. But thanks, guys, for being a part of this tonight. And thank you, chat. Thanks, everybody who's listening to this. Like, share, and subscribe, and all that sort of thing. But for tonight, the zoo is closed. Good night, everybody.
Good
night.